welcome to this online digital version of a little breathing session that was going to be part of the Voices of the Earth course that has had to be postponed, sadly, along with many, many other courses and offerings around the world. So you get to join me here in my bedroom instead. And this is my second attempt at recording this video, so hopefully this one will work a little better than the first one. And I'm doing this on my own today, so it's a little bit strange just talking to the camera. I also have the camera propped up on a mirror, so I can see myself twice, which is kind of weird, perhaps not the best positioning, but I'll work with it. So during the course one of the things we were going to do was explore the crossover of ways of using the breath and how focusing on your breath and your breathing can benefit both your well-being and your singing style and your singing ability. So it felt like a good thing to continue to still offer, but through this digital medium. And particularly with everything that's happening in the world, just seemed to be, for me anyway, the most beneficial thing that I could offer to people in this time. There are many different ways of breathing, and there are many different benefits and positive effects that can come from just primarily from being aware of your breath and your breathing. The more you can be aware of your breath and your breathing in a day, the more benefits that will bring you. And then as you start to introduce different ways of consciously controlling your breath, you start to induce different physiological and mental and emotional shifts within your body. So in a time when there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, whatever we can do to help ourselves to navigate all of that is a benefit to us, and working with your breath is one of the simplest ways that you can do that. And then there are also documented physiological and health benefits and benefits to your immune system that come about through different ways of breathing and conscious control of your breath, and particularly like breath retention, which we'll go into a bit later on. But yeah, just taking the time to be aware of how you breathe and your breathing will bring great benefits as well. It's been claimed, I found, that the whole point, so pranayama is the area of yoga that focuses on breathing and the breath. It's been claimed that the whole point of pranayama and all of the various exercises is to get you back to a point where you breathe properly. And when I've talked to people before about breathing properly, there's been some confusion, because breathing, it's primarily an involuntary activity. We don't really think much about our breath, and it's one of the few things where we can breathe involuntarily and voluntarily. So we can take conscious control of our breath, and then we can just let it go and forget about it, as we often do, and then we carry on breathing through the day. So many of the functions in our body are primarily unconscious and involuntary, but our breath is one that we can switch between the two. It's also the primary thing that connects our internal world to our external world. So we are constantly exchanging air and gases with the outside world. So there's this constant exchange between our internal world and the external world, other one being food and drink. So when I talk about breathing properly, it's what's known as diaphragmatic breathing, so breathing from your belly. So we tend to breathe from a very shallow position. We only use a small portion of our lungs and our lung capacity. We breathe from the top, but we have all of this huge lungs to use. And by breathing diaphragmatically, breathing with the belly, breathing with the full capacity of the lung, it's a much more efficient way to breathe. It's a much more efficient gas exchange takes place, and there are physiological changes that take place that influence our mental well-being and our emotional well-being as well. So breathing shallow is kind of, it's a response of our body when our sympathetic nervous system is activated. So shallow breathing, fast breathing, it allows certain systems to activate and to work. But if we're doing that all of the time, then we're not activating the parasympathetic nervous system as well. And we're still, the physiology of our body matches what it would be like in a kind of fight or flight or freeze response, which is just not functioning as efficiently as it could. So we're aiming to do our breathing primarily from here rather than from here. But we'll get to that shortly. To begin with, we'll start getting to it now. Get into the breathing. So to begin with, we're just going to become aware of our breath and what our breath is doing. So I invite you to close your eyes and just pay attention to your breath and your breathing and see what it's doing. See how you're breathing. Are you breathing shallow? Are you breathing deep? There's no right or wrong answer here, we're just paying attention for now. Is your breathing fast? Is your breathing slow? Is your breathing regular? Is your in-breath and your out-breath about the same length? Did you recently have a coffee and has that affected the way that you're breathing? Did you recently eat some food and is that affecting the way that you're breathing? So just paying attention to what is going on with your breath, with your lungs, in your body. Just giving some gentle attention to your breathing and your practice of breathing and your style of breathing. Has the way that you breathe changed just since we started doing this small exercise? Have you noticed any shifts or any changes in your breathing just in the last few minutes? Are you breathing through your nose? Are you breathing through your mouth? Are you breathing through both? Is your breathing silent? Is there a noise? Can you feel the breath entering and leaving your nose? Can you feel the breath entering and leaving your mouth? Do you feel like sighing? Go ahead. Any noises, any sounds that come, anything that comes at this point, it's all welcome. As we just start to tune into our bodies and tune into the session and the breathing that we're going to do. So while you're still focusing on your breath and paying attention to your breath, I'll just give you an idea of some of the things that we're going to do coming up. So from here, we're going to begin to take a bit more conscious control of our breathing. And we're just going to shift into some long, deep breathing, practicing breathing from our bellies and from our diaphragms, seeing if we can begin to use more of the capacity of our lungs, and just to see what that feels like. And then from there we're going to begin to explore the idea of breath retention, so holding the breath in and holding the breath out. We're going to do something called box breathing, or square breathing, so counting the duration of the inhale and exhale and the holds, and I'll talk more about that when we get to it. And then we're going to step it up a gear, and we're going to begin to look at how so breathing and deep breathing is very good for relaxing yourself and relaxing your body, but you can also use your breath to energize yourself and energize your bodies. So we're going to look at different ways of doing that. And then from there we're going to explore this idea of breath retention a little bit more, and the positive effects that come about from that and the health benefits from that. And then we're going to end with what's called alternate nostril breathing. So with alternate nostril breathing, again, that's a very balancing way of breathing. So it kind of brings together the different things that we've already done. So the calming and the energizing, the mental and the emotional. So yeah, we're going to finish off with a very balancing way of breathing. So that's just an idea of where we're going to go with this exploration. So from here, now that you've kind of just tuned into your breath a little bit more, possibly for the first time today, or possibly this is something that you do a lot, and maybe all different levels of expertise here. So I'm assuming I'm working with an inexperienced level of knowledge, so hopefully you will all get something from this anyway. And I find it doesn't matter how long you do these practices, just to sit with other people, whether it's in the same room or digitally, and do these practices. There's just something, a different feel about it. So still with your eyes closed, if that's comfortable for you, and focusing on your breath. And we're going to begin to inhale through the nose. So breathing in through the nose, and just following that breath down, and trying to bring that breath all the way down into your lungs, into the base of your lungs. So as you're breathing in, your belly begins to expand. So just kind of, just expand your abdomen, your stomach out. And this creates a kind of bellows effect of your diaphragm, and that draws more air into your lungs. So your lungs begin to fill from the bottom to the top. Now if this is a new way of breathing for you, you may not fill your lungs completely from the bottom to the top. It may still feel quite shallow, but as long as you're concentrating on bringing your stomach out when you breathe in, and then on the out breath, we're emptying our lungs from the bottom to the top. So squeezing the stomach as we get to the end of the exhale, and this forces all of the air out from the lungs. So as long as your stomach, your abdomen is expanding on the in-breath and contracting on the out-breath, that's what we're aiming for and looking for. For many people I've met along the way, they do the exact opposite. So when they breathe out, the stomach expands, and when they breathe in, the stomach contracts. So this is the opposite way of how the system is designed to work. And if you're one of those people, then this is your primary objective now, is to try and switch that around and practice in reverse and switching that around, so that we're expanding on the in-breath and contracting on the out-breath. So breathing in through the nose, and I invite you with this exercise to breathe out through the mouth. So breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose, filling up the lungs from the bottom to the top. Breathing out through the mouth, emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Squeezing at the end just to get as much of that air out as you can. So this way of breathing, this long, deep breathing, is very relaxing for the body, it's very relaxing for the mind. It's very cleansing for the body. It removes many toxins from the body through your breath, primarily in the form of carbon dioxide, and a lot of the gas exchange takes place at the bottom of the lungs, substance exchange. So by using the full capacity of the lungs, we're cleansing our bodies a lot more efficiently. So just continuing with that way of breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the mouth. The significance of the breathing out through the mouth is, in terms of this being a relaxing way of breathing, when you breathe out through your mouth, you stimulate what's called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is part of the autonomic nervous system, so it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is split into two, and the sympathetic nervous system is our kind of fight, flight and freeze response. It's the active part of the autonomous nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system, that's our kind of activates our digestive response, our immune response, our rest response. So that's a much calmer, it's much slower, it requires the body to be in a different state, different hormones, and it moves much more slowly. And they don't really work at the same time. So when you're in a fight and flight and freeze response, it's very difficult for the digestive system and the immune system to work properly. So it just adds to that calming effect of this way of breathing by breathing out through the mouth. So I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes so we can really get into this way of breathing. I'll just put a timer on and just enjoy it. Allow it to deepen, allow it to enjoy those feelings of relaxation that come from this way of breathing. So we'll do this for a couple of minutes. So on your next inhale, just take a deep breath, and then we'll start to get into this idea of breath retention. So just holding that inhale for a few seconds, and then breathing out, relaxing and allowing your breathing to come back to normal. And just checking in with how you feel, how your body feels, how your mind feels. Do you notice any differences? Any difference in your state of mind and feeling? So you're welcome to keep your eyes closed for the duration of these exercises, or you can open them in between. Check me out in my bedroom here. I'm not really going to be moving and doing very much, so it's entirely up to you. But from here, we're going to move into what's commonly known as box breathing. Its technical name, sorry, I'm going to have to look it up, is, oh no, I haven't got it written down, so I'm going to have to find out later and let you know afterwards. I was trying to find its yogic name, it's pranayama. I thought I'd written it down. So, it's again very simple. We are counting the inhales, and then we're holding the inhale, and then we're counting the exhale, and then we're holding the exhale. And we're doing that for an equal amount of time. So the counts don't literally need to be seconds, they just need to be equal. So if you're breathing in and you're counting for a count of 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever is comfortable for you, tend to aim for 5, and has been known to go much higher as you get used to it. But starting with a 5 is usually a good starting point. So as long as your counting is equally spaced, it doesn't need to be seconds. So inhaling for a count of 5, holding for a count of 5, exhaling for a count of 5, and then holding the breath out for a count of 5. So with this, we start to get into the changes that are induced in your body when you hold the breath, both when you hold the breath in and hold the breath out. And then that act of counting and introducing these different stages really begins to occupy the mind in a very different way to just following a breath. And so from there it can starts to have this similar effects to sort of meditation, that focused meditation. So it can be very relaxing in that sense, that it can just take your mind away and your body away from feelings of anxiety and similar states, because you've brought your mind back into your body and you're sort of taking more control over the processes and being more aware of the processes that are going on in your body. Plus you have the similar benefits of the deep breathing that we've just done. So we are going to, so aim for a count of 5. If that doesn't feel comfortable for you, by all means try 4 or 3. And if 5 feels too easy, then by all means experiment with something slightly longer. So again, closing the eyes and just connecting with your breath, and breathing in through the nose for a count of 5. And also start to introduce some kind of very simple visualization. So as I'm breathing in, I imagine that air, that prana, that energy, however you want to view it, just filling up the whole front of the body, so traveling down the front of the body. And then with the hold, I then imagine the air or the energy just permeating down into my hips and my pelvis and the lower half of my body, really kind of sinking it down. And then on the exhale, I bring it all the way back up my spine to the top of my head, and then with the breath hold out, just kind of permeates through the head and then continues down to the front of the body, and the cycle continues. So we're going to do that for a few minutes, the box breathing, so in your own time. Breathing in, hold, breathe out, hold. Really try and open up the front of your body with the inhale as well. And I also do exhale through the mouth with this breathing exercise generally, for the same reasons previous exercise. But it can be done in and out through the nose. So bringing that cycle of breathing to a close with your next exhale, completing one last cycle, and then allowing your breathing to return to normal once again. And again, just taking a moment to check in and notice and recognize any shifts, any changes that you're experiencing, any sensations in the body as well. Sometimes if these kind of breathing practices are totally new to you, yet then you may start to experience physical sensations in your body, and that's particularly true for some of the next exercises that we're going to do. So moving straight on, as I said, we're now going to kind of step up a little bit. So we've looked at ways of relaxing the body and relaxing the mind, and now we're going to get more into how we might use our breath to energize ourselves and enliven ourselves and enliven our body, enliven the energetics of our body. But also continuing that kind of detoxing and that cleansing activity that the breathing and the breath work can bring to your body. So we're going to do what is commonly known as breath of fire next. And this is a very dynamic way of breathing. Still breathing using the diaphragm and using the full capacity of the lungs, but it's a much quicker way of breathing. So the focus is on the exhale, and it's a very short, sharp exhale. The inhale part of the cycle of the breath, that just comes naturally as a result of letting go of the mechanism that you've used to exhale. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. So a good starting point is to place your fist or your hand or two hands on your belly, and we're rapidly contracting the abdomen in order to force the air out of the lungs. And it's all done through the nose, this one, in and out through the lungs. So it looks something like this. So as you're contracting, you're forcing the air out, and then you just relax. You don't have to force your abdomen back out, you don't have to do anything with your lungs. And that act of just relaxing, because of the anatomy of the diaphragm, that then draws an amount of air back in through your body. So all you're really doing is making sure that comes in through your nose. And then you move on to the next contraction, expulsion, exhale of air. So the inhale is happening automatically, the exhale is where you're making the effort. And you're trying to keep your spine and your back as straight as possible. Now, we'll just do a minute with this, and so I invite you to close your eyes again and just connect with your breath again. And if this is new to you, a good starting point is kind of one breath every second, sort of fast enough to get you used to the activity, and it can become quite tiring around the abdomen. You're basically doing sit-ups without moving, so it's an added benefit. So if you notice the abdomen does start to get tired before the minute is over, just still focus on that dynamic breath and that kind of forced exhale, even if your stomach doesn't seem to be contracting as much as it did in the beginning. If you're experienced with breath of fire and this way of breathing, by all means perform the exercise at whatever pace you're used to. So if that's 2 breaths a second or whatever that might be. I'll try and do it slowly, even though I normally go quite fast. So we'll do about a minute. I've got time on there. So closing your eyes if you haven't already, connecting with your breath. And not taking too deep an inhale to begin with, but just breathing in and then begin. And then taking a deep inhale on your next in-breath. And hold that breath in for a few seconds. And breathing out. And holding that breath out for a few seconds. And then breathing in and allowing your breathing to return to normal once again. And just seeing how you feel. How was that? Breath of fire can generate a lot of heat in your body, so you may feel quite hot right now. You may feel slightly lightheaded or slightly dizzy. You may have experienced tingling in your body. All of these things are totally fine and totally normal. If you are doing the breathing exercise, of course, and it becomes too uncomfortable, then obviously stop and rest and just bring your attention back to your breath. Take a few deep breaths. Because there are, some of the changes that can be quite drastic in your body, and they can feel a little bit strange. So this is a very cleansing way of breathing. This is a very energizing way of breathing. As I say, it can generate a lot of heat in your body, which has positive effects on your physiology as well. So we'll have another go and do another round of that for about a minute. If it doesn't feel comfortable for you, then just while we're doing this, you can go back to the long deep breathing and just practicing using the full capacity of your lungs again. So closing your eyes, taking a breath, and then begin. And on your next inhale, taking a deep breath in, hold that in for a few seconds. And breathing out and holding out for a few seconds. And then allow your breathing to return to normal and relax once again. And just seeing how that feels for you, any sensations, any changes. So that's breath of fire, and that. So the second time I did it was obviously going faster than the first time. I didn't expect you, if this is new to you, to go that fast, to go at your own pace, but just to show you the kind of pace that you can build up to, and then the duration of time you can do that for is 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, depending which tradition you follow. Different numbers that they assign to it, and some people go for much longer. What's interesting in my own experiences, I've noticed that there's a lot of, like with a lot of things, there's a lot of mental stuff telling you that there's time to stop, but actually there's no real reason that you need to stop. So I get to a couple of minutes and I'm like, oh, that's enough, but there's no reason why I need to stop. So you can keep going like that for a lot longer than you might imagine, which leads us into the next way of breathing. The next breathing exercise we're going to do recently has been popularized by Wim Hof, the Iceman. So some of you may be familiar with him and his way of breathing. It does have a technical term, which is intermittent hypoxia training or episodic hypoxia training. And there is an equivalent in the world of pranayama and yogic practice, which I'm going to have to actually look up because I can't remember it, which is Bastika combined with Vichaka and also Kumbhaka. So what it consists of is rapid breathing again, which is essentially a controlled form of hyperventilation, which is kind of an oxymoron because technically hyperventilation is something that you have no control over. But it's approximating that hyperventilation process, and the point of that is to oxygenate the body but remove as much of the carbon dioxide from the body as possible. So that impulse to breathe when we're holding our breath, that impulse to breathe actually comes from a build-up of carbon dioxide within the body. So that impulse to breathe actually comes from a build-up of carbon dioxide within the body, rather than a lack of oxygen. And there's research being done and evidence showing that there are actually many benefits to having temporary states of hypoxia, of low oxygen levels within the blood and within the body. So normally hypoxia is a bad thing. In the medical world, hypoxia is low oxygen and a situation that needs to be resolved. But when it's controlled and short term, we're actually finding that there are many benefits, many physical benefits to the body, including stem cell transfer around the body and effects on kidneys, and it creates a different environment in the body that allows systems to work that normally struggle under highly oxygenated systems. That's a very brief summary of the benefits of hypoxia training. So there's this dynamic breathing to begin with that is removing carbon dioxide from the body, and then there's a breath retention on the exhale, so holding the breath out, and that allows this hypoxic environment to exist. And then there's an intake of oxygen, and that reoxygenates the body, reoxygenates all of the cells, and then this is repeated for several rounds depending on your experience. So to begin with, when you begin this practice, the amount of time that you can hold your breath for, you may still be pleasantly surprised by how long you can hold your breath for, but over not very much time at all, if you practice this regularly, every day, every few days, you'll notice that hypoxic period, that breath holding period, really begins to extend with very little effort at all. So this is meant to be performed with minimal effort. It's not meant to be. You're not meant to be straining. You're not meant to be forcing yourself. So gently challenge yourself. So when you're holding your breath and you feel that kind of natural impulse to breathe because you're not used to, maybe not used to holding your breath out for that long, explore that edge. But if you find yourself really struggling and really in discomfort, then just take a deep breath in. Like there's no, this is no boot camp for breathing. We're just exploring different ways of breathing. So, and the important thing is when you do take that in breath in at the end, just to hold that in for around 15-20 seconds. And again, depending on your lung capacity and your experience with breathing, you may be able to hold that in breath for much longer. But 20 seconds is generally where you get the most benefit from that reoxygenation process. So we're working backwards. That's what we do with the breath holding, with the dynamic breathing to begin with. It's kind of the reverse of the breath of fire that we just did. So we're taking a deep breath in and filling up the lungs, and then we're just kind of we're trying to expel all of the air from the lungs, but we're allowing it to happen as effortlessly as possible. So, and I start breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, and then we sort of aim for around 30 to 35 breaths. So over the course of those breaths, I will then, after maybe 5 breaths, I'll transfer to my mouth and I'll start inhaling through my mouth and exhaling through my mouth. And the duration of the inhale and the exhale tends to get shorter as I get towards the 30-35 breath mark. So to give you an example of what that might look like, an inhale of breath would be, and an exhale would be. So as much as possible, we're trying to fill the lungs and empty the lungs with each breath, but we're not doing the long, slow, deep breathing style. We're not filling up the different stages of the lungs. It's a much more dynamic and much more rapid filling and emptying of the lungs. So you can start with your mouth, or like me, you can start with your nose and then transfer to your mouth. Just working out what is most comfortable for you as you explore this way of breathing. And again, with the breath of fire, even more so, you may start to experience strange sensations in your body, tingling in your hands, tingling in your feet, tingling in your head, either during the breathing part or the breath holding part. You may feel lightheaded, you may feel slightly dizzy. As far as possible, just sit with these experiences and these sensations. If it becomes really uncomfortable, then obviously stop, and again, just take a few breaths and just come back to yourself and make sure you're okay. But when you start to explore some of these other ways of breathing, pranayama practices and breathing practices, because of the changes that are taking place in your body and your body not being used to them, there's a kind of leveling out period. And I've had some very strange things happen to my body. So you can kind of experience this clamping of your hands. So they go into these like claw hands, and I've had strange pins and needles and all of these things. So they all level out, and now when I practice this every day. None of that really happens anymore, and in a way, I'm almost disappointed that I don't get the strange tingling sensations in my head and the weird things in my hands, and it's just become a totally normal way of breathing. So it feels a bit weird, but it's kind of part of the process. So that's enough talking, let's give it a go. So you're just closing your eyes, connecting with your breath again, and then begin when you're ready. So fully in, and out. Fully in, and out. Breathe in. 3 more breaths. Last one. And now hold your breath out. Just be aware of any sensations in your body. Experience the sensations fully in your head, your arms, your legs, your hands, your feet. Enjoying the stillness, the silence. And for some of you, that impulse to breathe may already be rearing its head. And just explore, just see what happens if you don't give in to that straight away. Enjoying that peace, enjoying some of these strange sensations. It's very difficult to actually knock yourself out by holding your breath. In studies, no one managed it. So as we start to get near to the time when we take the breath, just continuing that exploration of the edge, and then taking a deep breath in, and as you do, filling your lungs and just kind of giving your body a squeeze, contracting everything, and just feeling that oxygenation of your entire body, of your cells, every cell receiving that delicious oxygen. And holding for a few more seconds in, and relax and breathe out, and just taking a few normal breaths. So there's a style of Tibetan breathing called Tamar breathing, which is also similar to this way of breathing, and you may have noticed that this also can generate a lot of heat within your body. This is how one of the ways that the Iceman Wim Hof is able to spend large amounts of time in the cold, because he's generating his own internal heat through his breathing. So, how do you feel? Some of you may feel like lying down right about now, and others may be feeling things they've not experienced before in a long time, a kind of a certain energy in the body. So if it feels comfortable for you, we'll do another round. And again, if it doesn't, just sit this one out and just be aware of your breath, long deep breathing, or just following your breathing, just enjoying the sounds of me breathing. And just take some time out. And if you do want to have another go, generally, if this becomes part of a regular practice for you, then you would do 3 or 4 rounds, and slowly building up over time. So, for those that would like to continue with the second round, closing your eyes and beginning the breathing process again. So fully in and fully out, 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 fully in and fully out. And I'll breathe with you. Three more breaths. Last one. And hold. And a few more seconds, exploring the edge. That impulse to breathe. No straining, no stressing. Just exploring how much further and how much longer, how much past the edge you can go. And then taking a deep breath in and having a little squeeze of all the muscles in your body, and enjoy that sensation of reoxygenation of the body, the cells, every cell being oxygenated. And then holding for a few more seconds. And then breathing out and relaxing. If you feel like you need to have a little lie down right now, then please do. You can carry on listening from a lying down position. Yeah, just seeing what's going on, what's happening for you, and how that felt, and how you feel now. For those of you who've opened your eyes, you may notice that this is such a powerful way of breathing that it's actually managed to switch us from portrait to landscape. So you may notice that the screen looks slightly different now. There's a few technical issues during that practice. So breathing in that way has just totally flipped us on our side. So even my camera's lying down now. So we're going to finish off with one more breathing exercise. If you are having a little lie down after that, then you're welcome to stay lying down. This works lying down. Ideally it would be done in a seated position. I'm not dogmatic about my breathing exercises. We're going to finish off with some alternate nostril breathing. So this involves breathing in and out through each nostril independently and alternating between the two. And again, this is a very balancing way of breathing. This way of breathing also works on the autonomous nervous system, so balancing the two parts of that, it balances the two hemispheres of the brain, it balances the mental the thoughts and emotions, balances the two sides of the energy meridian channels in your body. So the idea being that there's two meridians that end in the nasal passages, and so you, by switching between them, you are stimulating and balancing and relaxing both of them. So breathing through each nostril independently has an effect on the body. So that can be cooling, that can be relaxing, that can be energizing, that can be warming. That can work with your thoughts and your mind, it can work with your emotional body. But today, right now, we're going to practice the alternate nostril breathing, so where we breathe through both of them, switching between the two. And I find this to be a very balancing way of breathing. This is a great one to do before bed. We're just going to do a couple of minutes today, but alternate nostril breathing, 10 minutes before bed. Sets you up, really sets you up for a good night sleep, and can even be done in the morning if you find that you're waking up in the morning and the mind is going straight away, or you're just kind of having a slow, tricky start to the day. Then alternate nostril breathing is great at any time of the day, just to kind of bring a sense of balance back, kind of centering way of breathing. So very simple, you take your right hand and place it vertically in front of your nose, and take a deep breath in through both nostrils, filling your lungs, and then closing your right nostril with your thumb and breathing out through your left nostril. Breathing in through the left nostril, closing your left nostril with your ring finger and your little finger, and breathing out through your right nostril. Breathing in through the right nostril, close the right nostril, open the left nostril, and breathe out through the left nostril. And continuing at your own pace, breathing in through one side, switching, breathing out through the other side, breathing in through that side, switching, breathing out through that side. So I'll keep an eye on the time and carry on at your own pace. Trying to keep the breath deep, but we're also trying to keep it even. It's not meant to be forced. We're not straining to fill the lungs. We're just nice, long, slow, gentle, deep breaths, trying to keep the inhale and the exhale at roughly the same length. So it should be a very smooth, wave-like motion to this breath, to this way of breathing. And it said ultimately that you aim to do this with no sound as well, but you don't need to worry about that today. But it just gives you an idea of the really gentle, steady approach to this breathing, where it's just silent and calm and smooth. And I often like to add a visual element to this as well. So as I'm breathing in through one side, I'm kind of just imagining this flow of energy up to the opposite side of my head, and then it swirls round. So if I'm breathing in through the left nostril, it goes up to the right side of my head, swirls round to the left side of my head, and then comes back down through my right nostril, and then in through the right nostril up to the left side of my head, swirls round to the right side of the head, and then down through the left nostril. And it's just something that I started adding in a few years ago, and it's just kind of stuck with me. You could do a whole other session on the power of visualization, but we're focusing on sound and breathing here this weekend. So carrying on for a few more breaths. And then on your next inhale, taking the inhale through both nostrils, so releasing your hand, and just holding for a few seconds, and breathing out and relaxing, allowing your breathing to return to normal. So as I said, this is a great one for any time of day, end of the day, start of the day, middle of the day, very balancing, very centering. I also invite you to explore what it's like to breathe through each nostril independently. So breathing through your right nostril on its own, this can be a very activating way of breathing. So I've done this, I often do that if I'm tired, if I'm driving or something, because you're kind of energy boost. Or if you feel that you're slightly overwhelmed emotionally, then breathing just through your left nostril can also help in that sense. So there's many different qualities and characteristics and effects of breathing through the two by themselves, and then combining that into alternating between the two. So that's the end of the selection of breathing exercises that I wanted to do with us today. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope you've experienced something enough to want to continue to explore them in your own time and in your own way. Yeah, if you have any questions, then do get in touch with me through the Schumacher Sprouts, or I'll give them my contact details. And yeah, just breathe deep. There's a lot that comes from breathing well and breathing deep and breathing properly. And I just wanted to finish off with something that's not a breathing exercise, but it's also something that I have incorporated into my daily routine, and I find to be very beneficial. I'm going to have to make a slight rearrangement of the camera, so I'm going to quickly do that now, and then I'll go back on. Hopefully you can see me from there. So the final thing I wanted to do is an energy medicine routine. It just takes a few minutes, and this works on balancing the entire energetic meridian system of the body. It's very simple. So all of the breathing is done in through the nose and out through the mouth. And we start with what is called, you can also be done sitting down. So if you're sitting down, you're very welcome to sit down. If you'd like to stand up, I generally do it standing up most days, because that helps me to get going in the morning, because I do this in the morning. Again, this can be done any time of day, as a way of centering yourself, grounding yourself. And one of the Postures exercises, there's a variation for standing and sitting. So I'll do the standing one and then I'll explain the sitting one to you as well. So we begin with what's called the 4 thumps. And so you start your fingertips just tapping underneath your eyes, on your cheekbones. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we move the tapping down to the collarbone, which is called the K27 point. So where your collarbone meets your chest and your ribcage. So just giving some gentle taps on there. Breathing, making sure you breathe. And then we move the tapping down to the sternum. So you can do this with 2 hands, you can do this with 1 hand, do it with a flat hand, do it like Tarzan, make some noise, tap, 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 tap on the sternum. And then the 4th one is on the spleen point. So it's kind of monkey-like. You're tapping at the bottom of your rib cage, somewhere around where it starts to turn. If it's easier for you, you can do it more like that. And so you're tapping yourself kind of 4 fingers down and round towards the front of your rib cage. So all around this area. That's the spleen point. So next, we're going to cross the energies over our body. So we put one of your hands on the opposite shoulder, and you just draw it across the body. And then switch sides. So we're just drawing our hands across our body. And it's very important for us to cross this central line of our body. It's good for our brains and it's good for the energy of our body to cross every day. And if you want to give a little flick, if you're feeling a little duende, a little flamboyant, it's also a good way to start the day. So continuing that crossing over of energies, that crossing over of the different sides of the brain, we're now doing the cross crawl. So we're just crossing our hands and our legs across this central line. If you're sitting down, then do the sitting down version. So as long as your legs and your arms are crossing the central line, that's good. So just lifting one leg to one side and bringing your arms across. If you're standing up, when you're lifting flamboyant, you can give a little kick, depending how energized and energetic you're feeling. Next, so this is the one where there's a variation. This is called the Wayne Cook posture. So if you're standing, bring your palms back to back, and then put them so that your palms are together, and circle them round and bring them through in front of you. Cross your legs, and then take an inhale. And as you breathe out, just gently leaning forward, not too much. And again, inhale, leaning up. And exhaling down. And then bringing your arms round, uncrossing your legs, switching your arms, switching your legs, pulling it back through. Deep inhale. And exhale. And again, inhale. And exhale. And then release. If you're sitting down, the variation, I can do it standing up, but I'll show you what you would do if you're sitting down. You bring one of your legs and you just rest your ankle on your thigh, and so if you've got your left leg up, you put your right arm on your ankle and you put your left leg on the bottom of your foot, and as you breathe in, you draw that foot towards you, and as you breathe out, you release. Breathe in, draw that foot towards you, breathe out, release, and then switch sides. Right leg up, left leg on the ankle, right leg on the bottom of the foot. Breathing in towards you, release. You do that a couple of times on each side. Next, bring your fingers together, so you make a kind of cathedral structure, and just place the tips of your thumbs on the point, just in between your eyebrows. Your brow point in there. And just take a few deep breaths. Out through the mouth. And then breathe in, and then as you breathe in, bring your fingertips together on your forehead, and as you breathe out, just draw them across your forehead with a little bit of pressure and down to your temples. And then we're going to continue that movement all the way along the central line of the head. So just interlocking your fingers, pressing down on that central line of your head. You breathe in, and as you breathe out, just drawing them down the sides, all the way along to the crown, and then down the back of the head. And keep going down the back of the head, down to the neck, until you come to the shoulders, and then just taking a deep breath in, a little bit of pressure on the shoulders. And out. And then moving your hands down to your heart, and just taking a deep breath in here. And out. And next we're going to do connecting earth and heaven, connecting earth and sky. So taking a deep breath and rubbing your hands together. And then breathing out and just shaking up. And then breathing in and just putting your hands on your thighs and leaning forwards a little bit. And breathing out and relax. And then as we breathe in, we lift our right arm up towards the sky and our left palm facing down to the ground. So palm facing up, palm facing down, and looking up, but really feeling a bit of a stretch down that right side. And then as you breathe out, bring your palms together in front of your chest, and then breathing in the left side. Left side up, right side down. And then breathing out, palms together, breathing in and up, right side, and down together, and last time on the left, and down together. So if you're doing this on your own, then you can do those stretches as many times as you like, but now we're going to just lean forward and let the body fold forward, and take a few breaths here upside down, just to really allow your body to hang. Again, if you're doing this sitting down, just leaning forward where you are in your chair or your seat, and taking a few deep breaths. And now to return to upright, you have two options for your hands. So one would be to roll your hands toward yourself if you feel like you just need to fluff up your energy a little bit, and the other is more of a crossing movement, again, figure of 8 movement with your arms. So whichever one you feel like you need now, I'm going to go for the crossing figure of 8, swinging of the arms, breathing in, unfolding, rolling up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, and breathing out and down and relax. And then a couple of things just to finish, and it's called the hook up. So if you place one finger in your belly button and one finger on this brow point, and as you breathe in, just apply a little bit of pressure, upward pressure, stretching pressure. If it feels uncomfortable for you in your belly button, then find a point just sort of an inch below your belly button, and just press in there. And you're just pressing in and up on these 2 points as you take a few deep breaths. If you've ever wondered, like where the human equivalent of the reset button, like on your computer is, give you a little secret. It's right here. It's right here underneath your belly button. You just press that a few times and you'll reset. So a couple of breaths here, and then finally we do what's called the zip up. So as you take a deep breath in, just drawing all that beautiful energy that we've created and got moving, drawing it all up the front of your body, tying it up to seal it in, chucking that away. You can also do the back. And that is daily energy medicine routine. And that comes from Donna Eden's energy medicine work. So if you're interested in that, look up Donna Eden and her energy medicine work. But that is a kind of summary of the routine that she developed for doing every single day, which I have been doing and really enjoying. So I just wanted to share that with you to finish. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that you've enjoyed this and you have gained something from it, and you continue to explore connecting with your breath and connecting with your body and connecting with the energy of your body and all of these things as you move forwards. And please do get in touch if you have any questions. Have a glorious, glorious rest of your day. Stay safe and be well. Thank you.